So it's been about a day since the prototype was officially revealed in Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 Broken Things after so many years, and I've spent probably an embarrassing amount of time analysing the official design from top to bottom, left to right, in every scene that it's in, and here's what I've found. Just before we get into things, subscribe if you'd like, I'd love it if you did. I'm Kirby's2Plays, how you doing? The first point that I want to raise about the prototype is yes, it did have a Jester aesthetic, as many people theorised. A surprising amount of people are coming forward saying, yes, I knew the prototype was going to be a Jester, which is a little ironic. However, I know where their thinking comes from now. In the back corner, on a wall, in an official Mob Entertainment poster for a holiday, was a picture of a Jester on the wall. Now, although I cannot dispute there is a physical similarity, how the hell do you have the mentality of, oh, Mob Entertainment posted a teaser, let's look at a wall, it's a Jester equals prototype? It's just that theorist mindset. It's not compatible with mine. I think that's insane, but they were right. I think a large part of why people's brains automatically went, yes, this is relating to the prototype, is because when some of the names for the villains in Chapter 5, presumably, leaked shortly after Chapter 4 came out, like Chum Chumpkins I know leaked and Lily Lovebraids leaked as well, because they were being copyrighted in that whole process. I think because this Jester didn't directly link to any of the names that had been revealed, people thought, okay, maybe this relates to something else, i.e. the prototype. So that kind of thinking is a bit more rational for me. I kind of get where they're coming from now, but I cannot dispute this was a legitimate reference and foreshadowing for the prototype, and that's just incredible to me. One thing that did come to mind though is that you usually have Jester-like toys in Jack-in-the-Box, you know? And the Jack-in-the-Box aesthetic is a box that's already been ticked in the franchise because of Boxy Boo, right? Boxy Boo is a Jack-in-the-Box gone wrong. So to have the prototype have a Jester aesthetic kind of as well, even though they look completely different, I do think kind of there's a little bit of surface being tread again in that regard. And that's not at all a bad thing, you know? Because the prototype makes it work. Boxy again looks completely different. But when people say Jester, or they show me like the distinctive Jester hat and things like that, my mind goes to like a Jack-in-the-Box toy or something like that, and that's tied to Boxy Boo. But moving on, this thing is huge. Although one thing that we didn't get in Chapter 5 was a canon height for the player character, this thing towers over Huggy. And Huggy, I've seen people say Huggy's 9 to 12 feet tall, and this thing was able to stab it with its hand at chest height. This thing is huge. We don't have a canon height for the character to compare it to, although we did see a look at the suits outside of Project Playtime, so that was quite good, and that was some legitimate canon right there. But even then, the prototype is absolutely massive. This is the biggest talking villain in the franchise, and I want to specify that because there was a giant Bron in Chapter 5, and although I and so many people are really happy to see Bron, it wasn't alive, but it was huge, so technically that's the biggest villain. There's still some debate as to whether or not that is actually bigger than the prototype or not, but just to be on the safe side, the biggest villain, the biggest talking antagonist is the prototype by far in this universe, in this franchise. And that's good, it's grand, it looks imposing, you know? One thing that I have to admit I'm not a massive fan of is the fact that the base goes from being so chunky and yet weirdly clean to really thin. Because it's hard to think rationally because look at what we're talking about, right? But the fact the body just goes so thin. Like it has quite a literal hourglass figure going from like a massive waist where all the arms and things are showing to like really, really thin to the arms and the head. It would not support that weight. And the thing is, like, we see the prototype literally, his head's going all over the place. Like, you know, they are a damaged, unreasonable, unrationable thing. Unrationable is not a word. Unrational, you know what I meant. So the thing is huge, and obviously we're thinking back a few years now, but Mummy Longlegs gave us an explicit warning about the prototype at the end of Chapter 2. Mummy Longlegs was very worried that she would become a part of the prototype, and she really didn't want to. And this is all she had to be worried about, was one of her arms. And while I'm on the topic, the fact that they're all just kind of there is weird. Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh, having a prototype that was just an amalgamation of toy parts would have been a bit generic, or it would have looked a bit silly. Like, imagine the prototype having a giant Huggy head, and having a giant Mummy Longlegs head, and catnap stuff and things like that. And, you know, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be great. to like see Mummy Longlegs' head again, but with like lifeless eyes or like no pupils, and just see them like moving around with this giant hulking body and the arms and legs on top of that. That is absolute cinema right there. But this is fine. I'm glad that there is some representation of former villains, obviously, but the fact that, you know, there's a Huggy arm, despite the fact that the Huggy we've seen from memory has all of their limbs. So this is from another Huggy. Then there's a purple Huggy arm. You know, and I mean, like, I know that there are the little Huggies in that Whack-A-Huggy game that we did in Chapter 2 again. Maybe they're from there. They look a bit bigger than that. Actually, they must be the Bigger Bodies Initiative, right? So there's another Huggy out there somewhere. I mean, God knows how many. And then there's obviously Mummy Longlegs' arm as well, which is great. Catnap had some fur at the back. So there was some Catnap stuff in there. I wasn't too sure of that the first time. But yeah, there it is. I've seen some people, just zooming in on the face now, I've seen some people call this Evil Pomni. Now, Evil Pomni is already a character in the Amazing Digital Circus. So I'd like to dub the prototype Evil Pomni. There you are. Perfect. Fixed it for you. When it comes to the face, this is the big thing, right? Like, we know about the prototype's arms and legs, the Jester aesthetic. Some theorists had weirdly like had scribblings of, yes, the prototype will look like a Jester, it will look like a Jester, and they were right. But before Chapter 5 released, all we knew was that it would have legs and it would have arms. Wow, big shocker. So it all came down to the face. And in the end, it's good. It's good. Like, as a long-time fan, and I've been a fan since before Chapter 1 came out, just from that trailer alone that went viral, I don't mind it. You know, I think it looks fine. And the teeth are a bit on the nose. Ironically, when it comes to like scary, horrifying things, sharp teeth, big teeth come to mind, right? Don't they? Am I not wrong to say that? I think if I was to design a prototype prior to Chapter 5, I wouldn't ever have thought to have big spiky teeth on it, right? And even if these aren't big and spiky, like, they are quite Jeff the Killer creepypasta-esque, generic, scary, long and sharp, spiky teeth. It does look cool. I'm not sure if it makes sense in the context of a Jester character, however, this is an experiment gone wrong, so there is no rationality behind it. And as it relates to the rest of the look, they make it work, right? Like, it just works. I love the cracked smile, but I can't imagine what the mask would look like if it was complete. Like, I can imagine there being eyes on top of the eye holes that are left. That's all good. But when the mask was complete, I can't put together what he would look like. The body and chest area was a big point of contention when it came to theorizing. Literally everyone seemed to have a completely different idea of how the prototype would be dressed, including me. And it turns out, despite everything that the prototype has been through for goodness knows how many years, it's clothed, you know? The buttons are done up. It isn't like, I don't see a crease on it, really, other than at the back there, but, you know, it's cleaner than I thought it would be. In fact, the whole prototype is in general. But then again, my idea of the prototype was completely different. I had multiple heads, and it would be like, there would hardly be any colour on it, it would be robotic, it would be like something out of Terminator. So, again, not knocking the design at all. I think they made a lot of really good stylistic choices. Like, I'll get back to the body in a second. But the fact that there is only one eye, I don't know why, but that's a really good idea. And, I don't know, the more I look at that smile, the more it grows on me, right? Like, I know in a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, I'm going to love this thing to death, and I can't wait for that to happen. The body was quite good. It did have kind of a ribcage sort of thing going on. And I didn't know how likely that was. I'll be totally honest with you. When I saw designs that had, like, the bone elements, the bone-looking material on the arms and the legs, I didn't know if that would fully carry through onto the body or onto the head. And yeah, Catnap Shrine had, like, a human skeleton in it with, like, a skull head. A lot of people took that literally, and those people were wrong. The Jester people were right, but the people who thought that the skeleton aesthetic would, like, bleed into their head, they were wrong. Speaking of Catnap Shrine, my guy Catnap needs to get his eyes tested, because that doesn't look an awful lot like the prototype. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it does, but also no, it doesn't, you know? It must have been like a little bit of a misdirect on Mob Entertainment's part, and I guarantee you, the prototype was designed before this shrine was made. I don't know if it is just me, or the fact that we've only seen the prototype's arms on like a VHS before, or at the end of Chapter 2, But when I saw the prototype sit down at that table when it first appears, or even open the door, I thought, Jesus Christ, their hands are absolutely massive. I don't know if the hand size has been entirely consistent across this franchise, you know that? I obviously might be wrong about this, but the hands seemed so much bigger on the actual body compared to the VHS, where obviously a lot of time has passed. Maybe the prototype made modifications to itself. I mean, it absolutely has in terms of like the arms of previous characters and everything. It does look a bit like something out of Robot Wars. Another point that I did want to make about the Fool Tarot, which I totally forgot to make at the start, is that there was a theory which I saw get a pretty decent amount of attention around a year ago. I haven't thought of it since then, so the fact that I'm remembering it now is quite frankly miraculous. But a lot of people thought that the Jester would have a few implications towards how the prototype would actually act. So some people thought maybe the prototype wouldn't be as resourceful, as manipulative as we thought they would, because the Fall in Fool Tarot, maybe the prototype didn't have much of a functioning brain. Perhaps someone of more authority, and this is theorizing at the time, somebody with more authority was giving the prototype orders. And that's kind of true. Like, we know the prototype was created, a lot of stuff happened against their will. Honestly, their backstory is horrifying. All of their backstories are horrifying. Like, this chapter gave me sympathy for Huggy. That sequence was insane. But as it stands, I would say the design is good. I don't mind it. Like, there are fan-made designs that I prefer. But it isn't fair to dunk on the official one because of that. I know what I would have done. It's less mechanical than I expected. Like, I know it's entirely a robot. But in terms of, like, the clothing aspect of it, and the Jester hat, and the more defined features, and how shiny it is, you know? I'm not sure I would have gone down that route. But there is so much that this does right that I don't mind. You know, I could make peace with it. And I will. And I can't wait for it to happen. Let me know what you think of the official prototype design in Poppy Playtime. Let me know what you would have done differently, or what you like about this design, or what you theorise the prototype would look like. You've got lots of different options there of things that you may or may not want to comment or talk about. I've been the Kirby Bye.